Hello, everyone. This is the African American Theater Programs podcast, The Beat, Black Experiences in Art and Theater. Today, I am your host, Sydney Edwards, and here with me is...
Tyler Tate.
And our guest today is Keith McGill, who is a Louisville comedian, actor, and director. Keith, how you doing today?
Hey, Sydney, so great to be talking to everybody. Shout out to AATP. What?
Whoop, whoop. Yes, and actually, you know what, Keith? I actually met you during an AATP production. I think it was my first show here in Louisville. It was the piano lesson. You remember that?
Yes, I do remember. You came in and did a cameo, and we were like, it was a drunk and a loose woman. It was really a good debut for us to see each other in our best light, I think.
I agree. Because I was Grace, you were, what's the character's name? Whining Boy?
Whining Boy.
I can't remember the character's name.
Yeah, I had to learn to play piano for that.
Yes.
I had never played piano. And
really?
Yeah. And girlfriend, what's her name? She was the lead woman. Crystal?
Candace.
Hey, Candace. And it was her thesis role. And she was, like in the middle of all the things. Right. And then the director was like, yeah, can you take some time and teach Keith piano? And she's like, I will teach us. You don't have time to do, because it was only blues. It was like, you don't have time to teach me the piano. So I had a buddy of mine who I had coached as a comic, who I'd given him a lot of free time as a comic. I said, look, you teach people piano. I just need to have this like very simple 12-bar blues situation so I can sing on top of it. And he taught me piano, just those chords. And I had them. And then as soon as that play was over, nothing. Don't ask me to play nothing. All gone.
Oh my God. I love it. That's so funny. The things we have to do as actors, I tell you. So this is a good chance for us to like really introduce you to our audience. So the purpose of this podcast is that we're telling these Black stories so we can inspire theater students and so that they know that there's really more than one path in this industry and there's so many different things we can do and all of our journeys do not look the same, right? So I was hoping you'd tell me a little bit about what you do in the theater. Tell me about you.
All right. So I'll just go all the way back to the back. So I wanted to do theater my entire life. And I tell people this story all the time. We had a little black and white TV. And when I was a kid, when I was like 8 or 9 years old, I had a little black and white TV. The antenna was broken because I would not shove it down in right. TVs used to have antennas, y'all. I got to go way back. It's got young people. So TVs used to have antennas to get reception. And so if you pull the antenna up and wave it around, you might get, 3 or 4 channels. So I broke it one time. So it had a broken antenna. It was black and white. It was like a 12-inch diagonal. It was a tiny, tiny TV. And because none of my family really cared about the Tony Awards. They wasn't caring about it. They was watching, Mannix and Barnaby Jones or whatever. And so I was in the kitchen, sitting as close to the TV as possible so it wouldn't be too loud, watching the Tony Awards. It's like, I want to do that. I want to be up there. I want to do that. I want people to clap when I do stuff. And so I was that kid my whole life. In grade school, I was a good reader, so I always got to be in the school plays or whatever. But like I was also like shy because I didn't want people looking at me. So it was a weird mix. It was like, I want you to look at me, but don't look at me. So I just spent my entire time like trying to, doing theater on the low. It's like, all right, you get to read the Bible verse in church. Okay, great. But as far as trying out, I wasn't trying to do any of that. I never did any of it. And so eventually I was going to go to school because I was always so very good at math and science, and I was going to go to school to be an engineer. And I thought, this is my chance. I don't want to be an engineer. I want to be an actor. And I remember this, and she didn't mean anything by it. She was just a Black woman who had 3 kids and was very worried about them being broke in the street. And I said, I want to go to school for theater. And she's like, well, if you go to school for theater, I ain't got nothing for you. Okay. You go be an engineer, I'll help you out, but I can't help you with theater. And I was like,
wow.
What? And I was like 18. I didn't know anything. I didn't know anything about it. So I was like, okay, then I'll go to theater. Okay. And then, I'll go to engineering. And then I went to the University of Tennessee, which was a partial scholarship. So I was broke all the time. But I discovered there was a guy who lived down the hall from me who was in theater. And he said, come watch this thing. We're doing this thing called all night theater. And I said, well, what's that? He said, well, we just do theater all night, literally from like 8 o'clock to like 7 in the morning. It's just plays and plays and plays. And it was like a musical, and it was like one act plays, and they did betrayal, and they did it the whole thing, but they would like do it in chunks. So it was like, here's act one, here's act two, and I was like, this is where I need to be, with all of these people just sitting on the floor watching theater. And so that was the first bug. And then I came back home because I didn't have any money, and I took one theater class at UofL. This was before AATP at all.
Wow.
And I took one intro to theater class, and then I took theater for non-majors. And the woman in there, Renda Lundstrom was her name. She's not there now, but she was like very instrumental. And I said, look, I know it's supposed to only be for majors, but I'd really like to take acting one. And she said, yeah, of course you can take acting one. And so she let me in there, and that's how it started.
Yeah, and it's to me it's interesting to hear that someone finally got a start in theater in a more traditional way, because most people are like, oh, I started theater because I did a play at the park, or in third grade I played a banana. But you've actually got this thing where you actually took an actual class. So I'm wondering, how did you get your start in comedy? Like, was that something that just kind of came up in your adulthood, or was this more so a
Now,
childhood stuff?
comedy was, I think I was 25 when I first stepped on the stage. And I was class clown the whole time. That was the other thing. I was always that kid you sit next to, and I would say something smart about the teacher, about one of the students, and you'd be laughing crazy, and the teacher would be like, what's going on back there? Like, I don't know. He just started laughing. So I was always that kid. And I said, I would like to do comedy. And I went to a comedy club. I said, I can do this, because I went to an open mic, because half the guys were good and half the guys were horrible. I said, I can do this. And so I went to an open mic, and I got about 3 laughs, and that was enough. And so then I went back a month later, right? New comics don't go all the time. Like, they'll go once and then have to get the courage up to go again. So I went like a month later, and I got 4 laughs, and I went another time, and I got them same 4 laughs because I didn't write anything new. And then eventually it just built, and then the people who owned the club started watching me, and they said, how would you like to, we can give you an extra minute. Now you got 4 minutes. What? Yeah. And so it just kept building and building and building. And eventually I started, hosting shows when they were paying you rather than open mic night. Or then I would start going on the road a little bit. I thought I was a king. I would go out to Henderson, Kentucky. What? You don't know me. You don't know me. Get a hotel for a weekend, and they would feed you, and they pay me money. I was like, this is crazy. This is what I'm gonna do forever. But I still loved acting, and so I would act and I would do comedy, and then I fell into teaching a summer camp for Kentucky Shakespeare. So then the teaching part of it started. So, oh, I like teaching, but I also like acting, but I also like, and so now what it is I do all of it. I do all the things. As long as it's fulfilling, I'll do all the things. I'll act, and I'll direct a play. I'll write up a play real quick. I'll write up a class real quick. I'll do some comedy. So I got very fortunate. I mean, I had my retail jobs. I did Kinko's. I did independent bookstore. I did Science Center, But for the most part, I was able to always be doing that. And now that's all I do. Anything I do has something to do with theater in some way, either me doing theater or somebody else doing theater or stand up or something.
That is beautiful. I love the artist's life, right? It's always a hodgepodge of things when you're really in it, right? So
Right.
I've lived this life too, and I was wondering, what do you feel like some of the misconceptions are about what we do and this
It,
chosen life we have?
the first thing is it's easy. It's easy. And it bugs me. People say, oh, you just act. And I was like, child, we make it look easy. It's not easy. We do a lot of hard work so that in the end, it looks easy. Because I've seen people, and they say the same with stand up. It's easy. Oh, anybody can do that. And I was like, okay, tell you what, why don't you come down and why don't you do a quick 5 minutes and see how easy it is? And they get up there and they go, this is not easy, right? But that's one of the biggest conceptions. Number 2, and this really bothers me, and this is for anybody listening to this who wants to make a career out of this, you've got to get to a point where you are making money at it, because people will try to underpay you because they think, oh, you're lucky to be able to do your art, right? You're lucky to
Mhm.
be able to do this,
Right.
right? So you should take whatever we give you. If we want to give you a couple boxes of macaroni and cheese, you should be able to do this
That ain't
because you're
right.
an artist, right? And you should not make as much as a doctor or, uh, you know, uh, other people, an engineer. You shouldn't make that much money. You should be glad with what we give you because you
Mhm.
get to do your art. And it's like, you realize that engineers go to school for the same amount of time as theater people. We are in school the same amount of time. We got to get the same type of grades. Our diploma is exactly the same color as your diploma, right? So if I go to graduate school, then now I'm up with you, doctor. So now we're going to school for the same amount of time. You know, I you have to value what it is you do. It
Mhm.
can't be like, I'm only a. That should never be a sentence you use. I'm just a. I mean, and that's for anything. I've heard so many people say, well, I'm just a mom. I'm just a mom. Do you know how many kids I've gotten who had just a mom? And it's like, whoa, what is your, oh, okay. So your mom wasn't, not on point. So if you're being a mom and you're really trying to stir somebody in the right direction, or your teacher, that's the other thing, that whatever it is you do, if you love it, you have to value it. It's got to be valued by the rest of society. That's the other misconception, that art is not valuable. I mean, they're steadily taking all kinds of arts out of schools, and it's like, and then they go, well, these kids are crazy because they don't have an outlet. Not every kid is good at English. Not every kid is good at math. Some kids can draw with their eyes closed and make a masterpiece. I have a friend. She will pick up a pen, look at something, and 5 minutes later, she's drawn it.
Wow.
I could study forever and not do that. But I can become a character in about 5 minutes. That's what my gift is. That's my gift, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And speaking of the different things that you can do, I'm wondering of all your projects, and this is going to be kind of challenging, so bear with me.
I'm putting my hat on, Tom.
What was that?
I'm putting my hat on. I'm ready for you. Putting my hat on.
Okay. Okay. Of all the projects that you've done, and this could be old or this could be recent, which is your favorite?
Okay, yeah, that's impossible. I'm just gonna
Okay.
tell you right off.
So to be fair, I know it's too hard to pick one. Okay, so to be fair, like, what are some of your favorites?
Okay.
Like, when you think about it, like, what comes to mind? Like, what some
No, here's
favorites?
here's what. The reason it's impossible is because I love so many projects for so many different reasons.
Mhm.
I love doing piano lesson because it was a really wonderful. My favorite parts. I mean, if somebody casts me in the lead, I'm not gonna be like, I ain't being no lead. Okay, I'll do it. But I love a supporting role that is integral to the thing, because then I can bury myself in Whining Boy, or I can bury myself in Troy's Best Friend. I can bury myself in Gloucester to somebody else's King Lear, and say it's all right if you're the showstopper. But when we're in scenes together, people are going to know, thank God that character's in there because he was written in there, right? So I would look at Whining Boy not only because I got to be in that wonderful masterpiece of a show, but because I challenged myself to do something I had never done, which is play piano. I'd never played piano, and I said, "This is what actors do." Because that to me was, once I figured out how much work acting is, you have to research things and find things out. And it's like, okay, we need you to play piano, right? And I'm like, I don't play piano. It's like, okay, so go learn the piano. So it's like, okay, I got to figure out how to learn the piano, and that's what an actor has to do, right? That's homework. I really loved any Shakespeare I'd done, just because, I mean, Shakespeare is put in a certain category anyway. Um, but I feel like Shakespeare and August Wilson are in the same category. These people
Oh
write
yeah.
these incredible stories about real people, but they literally create a world for these people to exist in. And then they just write human stories. And they manipulate the language, and they, just like Shakespeare, August Wilson will have a 3-page monologue in a minute, right? And people go, "Oh my God, you conquered Hamlet's monologue. That's amazing." Like, well, I also conquered Doker's monologue in piano lesson, and that's like an entire generation of a story. So those kind of roles I did a show with Brian West, Top Dog Underdog, and it was just 2 people, and I was like, that means I am half the play. And I've never had a play like that before. I've had like there's 4 or 5 of us at least, or 3. I think the least I'd done before that was 3. I did art with a couple of people, but it was just the 2 of us. And it was like, and it would be moments where it's like, it's just you on stage for a lot of pages.
Yeah.
Telling a story. And it's like, what is the challenge of being able to keep an audience interested in this story that you're telling, that you've told before, because this is your 5th performance. And what are you finding different? And what are you pulling out of that? And in that, not only did I have to learn to play guitar, again, one of those things, but I had to learn to play 3-card Monte and not make it look like I just learned to play 3-card Monte. I had to be really good at it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so it's like, all right, here's a big challenge. I have to carry half of this play, and I have to be this person, and I have to tell this really deep, painful stuff. Right. And then I love teaching. I love teaching so much, whatever group it is, if it's adults in a comedy class, if it's 10-year-olds getting ready to do a little mini version of Shakespeare, because it's just, I like to be there when the light comes on.
Yeah.
When kids discover, oh, this is what I am. Thank you. I didn't know this is what I was. Now I know this is what I am. I just recently discovered being able to do this, but I love playwriting. I've written a couple of short plays. Like I wrote a play for Commonwealth Theater Center, the conservatory in town. And it's one that tours around now. It's called Nation in Crisis. It's a 1-person show about civil rights history up to about the 60s or so. And then I did a couple of plays. Well, I did a play and I directed a couple for Stage 1 Family Theater.
Yeah.
And that to me was just, you were in it. That's right. You were in the play I directed. That's right. And that for me was because I had been, and anybody who's done acting has been in the one where it's like, all right, look, y'all got a barn, don't you? It's awful cold in here. You ain't got no heat. That's fine. Where the lights at? You just got 2. All right, let's turn one this way, turn one this way. Okay, y'all bring your clothes from home. All right, we don't really have this prop. Let's just see if we can borrow one from somebody. We've done those plays, but then to go into a place where it's like, we've got money for whatever it is you want to do. We can build a whole set that we will use for one run and never use again. And we don't have to recycle it. And what you want. And that to me was like really intimidating because I'm used to like, all right, we bring some stuff from home. We paint some cardboard boxes. We stack up some cubes and make them look like a chair, whatever. But when it's like, no, we're actually going to build this thing, like when I directed Ghost, right? It's like, we're going to build a racetrack. Okay. I better be on it. Now I better mean it because they can't unbuild it.
I know. I had the same struggle actually when I came into this position. I'm so used to doing everything on a budget, right? Everything is no money. And so they're like, yeah, we need you to spend money. And I'm like, I don't know how to spend money.
Right. It's so weird because the other thing is it's not only professional, like spending money on the thing, you're working with professional people. This is my job.
Yes.
I design sets. So if you don't have an idea for me to design, I can't work. And then if you have me doing all of this stuff and you don't use it, you've wasted my time. So then you sit up all night and be like, exactly what you want this to look like. What exactly? And it took me a minute. And plus it was directing Ghost, which Idris Goodwin, when he was artistic director, he had pulled me out. Andrew Harris, shout out to him. He cast me in several plays at Stage 1. And Idris said, I want a Black director for this play about a Black kid. And Andrew Harris' first words out of his mouth, Keith McGill. And so he says, Keith, I want you to direct my play, Ghost, that's based on this iconic book now. And this is only the second production of this play. And so it may determine the direction of this play. You want to do it? And I went, yes! Before I told myself no, right? And then I hung up and I said, what am I going to do? So literally the first thing I had to do was like, I'm going to read the original book. And I read the book and then I read his play. And then I actually had like like suggestions for changes. I was like, I think this line really needs to be in here because it's really important, and I think this is the soul of what he says. Is that okay? He's like, yes. I'm like, really? All right. I think everything should look like this on the set, And the set designer was like, yes. Really? Okay. I think the light should. Really? I think it's like, and then finally, I was just like, here's what I need. No, it wasn't like that. But it was just I got a confidence in me that was like, okay, so I'm going to talk to somebody, and if they say yes, we can do it, then we'll do it. If they say no, we can't do it, they will give me a counter thing. It's like, okay, we can't do that, but we can do this. And so it taught me, because again, when you're doing like, I got some old clothes, I got a barn we can put on the show. It's not as collaborative. You're kind of a one-person band. I got to be the director, and I'm also my own stage manager, and I have to watch the script, and I have to figure out the lighting design and the set design and and cast the people. But when you're with a company, capital C, you have all these other people who do that. So you learn to collaborate, and you learn to say, okay, what are your ideas? What do you want to do? What do you feel like you want to do? What turns you on artistically? And they come, here's some sketches. I'm like, great. So you read the script before this meeting. Great. You didn't come to this meeting and say what you want me to do. And, it's like, thank you. And I'm going, yes. And we bring our ideas and we have it all together.
I love it. So like this, yeah, definitely the tricky part of directing, right? Especially when you're used to doing things on the no money scale. Lord, I know what you're saying, because you do all of these things. So my next question is actually, what is the hardest part of what you do? But there are so many parts to what you do, right? So we could talk about directing or comedy or acting. I pick one, and what's hard about it.
Well, here's the thing. The hardest part because there's nothing hard about the things intrinsically. Like you can say the hardest thing about directing is making sure you got your stuff together when you meet with somebody. Mm-hmm. The hardest thing about comedy is, well, what if they're not laughing? What do you do? Mm-hmm. The hardest thing about acting is remember the lines, remember the blocking, make it brand new for every audience that comes in. You can't be like, oh, I'm so tired of saying these words, but you haven't seen it. Here we go. Mm-hmm. So you have to, and we could find things, but the hardest thing about the whole thing that took me so long is figuring out how to schedule and budget. It's that other half of the brain that artists don't know how to use. So again, lesson from Uncle Keefe, figure out how to budget your money and how to schedule your money and plan to get money. Like, don't wait till you're broke to get a job. Right. I got stuff literally that I have planned for July. Mm-hmm. I actually have something planned for the spring. I mean, not for the spring, for the fall, because somebody said, are you free these months? I was like, yeah, I'm free. And so I blocked that off because you can't like, I hope I get some money, Like if you're sitting here right now, you should have stuff for summer at least already. A summer camp or something. Yeah. Have something set up. The other thing is, don't spend all your money. That's
hard.
Right. Don't feel like, because I got this money in the bank, I should spend it. Don't spend all your money. Budget. Literally. And be for real with your budget. Okay. Don't be like, maybe if this happens, nope. Talk about the money you got. Talk about the money you're spending. Figure out what you need to do to fill that gap. And this is the big thing I discovered. When you do that, money comes to you. When you're on purpose with your money, you get more money because the universe figures out, all right, this person can handle money. Here's a little bit more money. Can you handle this money? Okay, here's some more money. Can you handle this money? And it just happens. I mean, in the middle of COVID, now I had been working like a crazy person already. So I had a little bit of a head start, and I'm like, well, we got to figure this out. Unemployment, I guess. I'm going to have to pare my stuff down. And then theater companies like Actors I had been teaching for, and Commonwealth I had been teaching for, and Stage One when we did the Theater for Everywhere with them, because I had worked for these people for so long and been a reliable person and been good at what I did, I was one of the first people they called when they got their loan money, their PPP money. They said, hey, we know you'll be great, and we don't have to have a lot of supervision with you, and we're going to have to do a lot of stuff virtually, and it's a lot of independent work, and then you just turn stuff in. Can you do it? And so then those things started to happen. that people that I had been like putting in a lot of time and energy with and getting a lot back. It wasn't like, I was working in a coal mine. I was enjoying what I was doing, but I also made sure that, yes, I can do this. No, I can't do this. Here's what I can do. What do you need? I'll try to make that happen. And I had built relationships with people. And in turn, those people remember that and said, hey, you were there and we needed A, B, C, D, E. Now we need you back because we know that you got what it takes. So that's another thing that is part of this, building relationships with people, networking with people. If you're listening to this and you're in college or you're just starting out, those people that you're talking to right now are going to be the people who help you build your career. I know so many people who got a job because I had a buddy in college and now he's doing so-and-so and he thought about me. Or I knew this woman when I was, teaching this summer camp and we kept in touch. And now she's running this theater and she said, why don't you come and direct this show? So the relationships you're making now are going to lead to the rest of your life. They're going to help you the rest of your life.
Yeah. So Keith, who are some of your top influencers for what you do?
I'm gonna say Kim Kardashian. Kim Kardashian's a big influencer. Who are some of my top influencers? All right. I'm naming contemporaries or somewhat contemporaries. Because those are the people who I've stood and looked at and I went, I want to be like you when I grow up. Idris Goodwin is one guy I already named. You talk about a guy, irons in all the fires. He is always constantly popping up, doing something. I would say, oh my God, I can't remember the guy who directed Fences at UofL. That's awful. Baron Kelly.
Yeah, Baron.
I was like, the guy, the figure. Baron Kelly, because again, it was like, oh, okay, this is how I want to work. Because I watched him as a director. I was like, well, this is how I want to work with actors as a director. I want to be able to use this type of language. I want to be able to say this kind of thing. Two of the people who have passed recently, one just this year,
Yes,
Karen Hunter.
I love Karen.
Karen Edwards Hunter was huge for me. She cast me, I've done Fences twice, and she wanted to cast me as Troy. And I was terrified of it. I wasn't ready to say yes. I was terrified of it. And so I ended up being Lyons, which wasn't a miscast because I made it work, but it wasn't. I mean, there were other roles I should have been doing for real, like Troy.
Yeah, I would love to see you as the brother. What's Troy's brother?
His best friend?
No, it's his brother. I want to see his brother with the trumpet, Gabriel.
Oh, Gabriel. Yeah. That's right. I forgot they were brothers. But she's one. Kathy Ellis, who passed a couple years ago, she cast me in my first paid gig, I think. It was with Juneteenth Festival, back when UofL was sponsoring Juneteenth Festival, and she needed me. It was Driving While Black was the play. And she needed African-American. And I don't even know how she found my name, or she had seen me in something, or somebody recommended me to her or something. Mm-hmm. But she had been so influential in just me being able to branch out into other things. And I mean, she cast me in Top Dog Underdog. And I was just like, oh, you think I can do this? Well, I guess I can. We'll see.
She was such a sweetheart. Loved her.
She was. And she was like, it was so funny because like she was two sides of that coin, because she'd be like, all right, let's get this done, cracking the whip. But then she'd also be like, oh, I love you guys so much. And she'd hug us right before every performance. So, and that's like, oh, I like to think of myself as that director. It's like, I love you all so much, but don't screw this up or you're fired. I like to think of myself as that guy.
You kind of are that guy, Keith.
Thanks. Did you ever feel threatened, Sydney? I hope so.
I did.
Because that's where my power is, to make you feel like you could lose your job at any moment.
Just once or twice.
That's my gift.
So, I mean, Keith, you've had such an amazing career thus far, but going back to the beginning a little bit, is there anything you wish you had known when you started or before you started?
So many things. And I think this is why I still try to teach young people, school age people. It's because I want to be the one, because I had teachers like that. I had teachers, they weren't acting teachers, but I had teachers who were like, you realize you should be acting, right? It's like, I can't act. What are you talking about? I'm just going to go do this math. So I want to be that guy because I want people to understand that they can take a chance, they can take a risk. Because I never auditioned for anything all the way through school, never. Teachers would either assign me or I just wouldn't try out. And I would stand there and I would see the little flyer for Grease or, Our Town, whatever high school thing they were doing. And I'd be like, I should go audition for that. I could be station manager. I could be one of the Thunderbirds, T-Birds. I could do that. And I never did it. And I was like, oh, I should have done it. And so I feel like one of the big things I would tell myself is go ahead and try it because it's really not that big a deal. But when you're young, you think, oh my God, if I don't get this, this is going to be the most horrible experience and I will never recover from it. That's the biggest lesson I would say. Just go ahead and try it and see what happens. Because I sort of grew up in a discouraging home. To where, and it was really sort of a cultural thing. And I think, you all can correct me, but I think it's kind of a Black thing. I think it's like, don't do that because you're going to get let down because people ain't going to let you do that because you're Black.
Lord, yes, that happened to me. Look, I wanted to try out for American Idol so bad. My grandma was like, she didn't even have to say nothing. She just looked at me like, now you know. And then, Lord, when I decided to go to school for theater, that was a whole uproar. I think it's a Black thing. Like I don't think they don't trust things that aren't stable. We don't trust things that aren't stable.
My mother wanted me to get a job. And because everybody, a generation above me, got a job, a miserable, miserable job, and kept it until they retired or until they got disability. All of them. And every person, once they quit, their bodies were worn out. Their backs, and their legs and their knees and their shoulders and the whole deal, because every job they had was so physical. Like my mother worked at Philip Morris and she would lift these huge trays of cigarettes. My uncle worked at Ford and so he's lifting fenders all day. My aunt was a person who worked at the Postal Service. So she's constantly lifting big crates of mail and sorting it and all of that physical labor. And I remember this story. It's one of my favorite stories about my mother. When I first moved out, I was horrible with money, which is another thing I would have done. I would love to have somebody had sat down and said, this is how money works. Because it was just simple math, but I just didn't even put it together. And so I was horrible with money. I would spend every penny of my paycheck and then be like, so how am I going to keep these lights on? Fingers crossed. So my mother, I got a call. It wasn't even my mother did it. I got a call from Toyota when they first came to Kentucky and built that plant. And they said, hi, can I speak to Keith McGill? Hi, I'm so-and-so from Toyota, and we got your application, and we'd really like to talk to you about working here.
She did that for you? She put that application in?
And I went, what? Talk to me about, I didn't put, oh. I went, I'm sorry, you all. I'm not, there's not interest. I didn't make the woman feel bad. I said, oh, yeah, I put that in, but then I got another job. I'm sorry. I didn't. Yeah. Okay. And so then I called Mom, and she's like, well, it's a good job. And it is a good job. I mean, my cousin worked there, and she just retired, and she makes all the money. She just makes all the money. But I knew it was like, if I do this, I'm going to be miserable.
Yeah.
For the rest of my life. I was going to be an engineer. I was this close. I really actually went almost all the way through engineering school. 3.5 years. I had a semester. And that semester was co-op, which meant all I had to do was go and spend like 3 or 4 months at somebody's company and pretend to work. And I had a degree in engineering.
Wow.
And I quit because I knew that if I do this, that I'm going to feel like I should do it for the rest of my life. And I can't do this for the rest of my life. And so I quit. And then I worked at various retail outlets. And then I said, I should go back to school and get some sort of degree. So then I ended up going back to school. And then I was able to, because there were a lot of places, and you'll find this out. You probably already know there are a lot of places you just have to have a bachelor's degree in something and we'll give you this job. You can teach these kids, but you got to have a bachelor's degree in something. So depending on what job I was trying to get, I might have a bachelor's degree in art. I might have a bachelor's degree in psychology. I might have a bachelor's. I don't know. Just says bachelor's degree. It might be a bachelor's of science. Who knows? Nobody knows. I don't have to tell you. You don't even know.
So, with everything going on right now, especially in the United States, but globally, if we want to be more broad, with the social uprisings and COVID, how does that influence or inform your work?
I feel like now everything I do is a victory over this. It's like it's a couple of things. It's one, it's a way for me to say things like when I do stand up, COVID's in there. When I do stand up, being black is in there, being gay is in there. Like it's not political. I don't get into politics because that's just a slippery slope, and you're gonna half the room is gonna stop
Mm.
listening. But I do talk about the world. I do talk about social justice. Um, but I put that in my show. Like I say, I did Nation in Crisis, and what's so great about that is that it was something I would go into school. It's like, hey, I was there when Rosa Parks sat down. Hey, I was there when the boys in Greensboro sat down. Hey, my nephew is Emmett Till, whatever. And then I had another woman. I had done it for 15 years, and I said, I found all I can find in this role. And fortunately, a woman, Jackie Blue, who's an amazingly talented person, took it over. And she found stuff in it I couldn't have found. Like, number one, she could play women. Like, I wasn't going to try to play a woman. So she was playing men and women. She sings in it. It's fantastic. And just because of that change, it's more powerful. And then I go, oh, wait a minute. This art is contributing to the conversation that we're having right now. Like, this art is reflecting what was happening then and is still happening. So when you talk about Emmett Till, in the same breath, you could talk about George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. When you talk about not a sit-in, then you can talk about Black Lives Matter. Because it's the same type of thing. It's a peaceful protest to get things to change. And so I think this climate especially has given me fodder to talk about what's happening now. And that's the part, and that's why I'll probably never stop being a comedian, because it's so immediate. Like, the best thing
Yeah.
about being a comedian is all I need to be able to do is get to the place where it is. Like, I don't have props. I don't have costume changes. Do you have a microphone? Are people sitting down somewhere? Okay, I can do my art. Right? You don't need to get a director or get a budget or find a stage or you just need to walk in and say, I'm going to say some stuff. All right, I said some stuff. Good night, y'all. And so I'm really very privileged to be an artist. I feel like I'm super privileged to be an artist because as artists, we can speak directly to what's happening right now. Whether you're a painter, a songwriter, a poet, spoken word, actor, whatever your art is, musician, you can speak to right now immediately. You can go in the living room. It's like, I'm getting ready to write me a poem. Wait a minute. And then you can go on Instagram and be like, here's my poem about what's happening right now. Boom. Immediately, you're an artist.
Yes. Have you heard my favorite song? Speaking of like music being right now, have you heard Earth is Ghetto yet?
I have not, but now I have to.
To send you Earth is Ghetto. It's my favorite song ever. I should sing it for you, but this is not that podcast. Or is it?
This is not the Sing It For You podcast.
So this is our last question for the formal bit of the interview, and you've been giving us nuggets all along. But for our listeners, what advice would you give someone who wants to pursue a life that's similar to yours with the balancing? And you've been giving us nuggets all along, but is there anything you missed that you would throw in there?
Well, yeah, I mean, I can sort of sum it up. Okay, like you say, looking back, what would you have done to sort of get here now? Because right now, I feel like I'm the luckiest guy in the world. Like, I make all my money through art. Take a class with somebody. The first class I took was with UofL. And then when I wasn't at UofL anymore, I started taking classes with somebody who actually got me hooked up in my first play. For a first actual paid play, I think it was $20 and maybe some Cheetos at the cash party, but it was something. But I took actual acting classes with this person. Take a class at UofL, take a theater class in high school. Go ahead and try out for the thing, even if you don't get the thing, because if you start a relationship with somebody, then that person will say, this person came in and they weren't right to be Dorothy in the Wizard of Oz, but they were right to be, you know, some other part. They were right to be Julius Caesar, or they were right to be
Mm.
Portia in Julius Caesar. So make
Yeah.
relationships with people. Auditions are not to get the part. Auditions are to make a relationship.
And I think you even realize how true that is when you're on the other side of the table
Yes.
too. Like, have you had that
Yes.
experience where you're like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, you realize it's the truth. Like you feel like people are lying to you the whole time,
Right. Right.
but it's really the
It
truth.
is.
It's
It
really the
is. I
truth.
think the first thing I auditioned for with Kathy Ellis, I didn't get. I didn't get the part, but she said, "I really like you. You're just not right for this part, but I'm going to keep your name." And then she cast me just out of the thing and said, "Look, I want you to be in this play." I didn't even have to audition because she said, "I think you'd be really good for this part." I was like, "Okay." Um, Save money. If you want to be an actor, actors don't make a lot of money right off the bat. I'm sorry, y'all. If you're listening, you're not going to be rich tomorrow. Okay. Now you have more tools. You have like Instagram, which you can post things and just keep yourself out there and your name out there. But as far as being, sustaining, you have to uh, take some jobs you don't like and save that money from those jobs you don't like. So you have enough money to win. Okay, I'm gonna do this play for 12 cents. I can still pay rent. Okay. Don't count on acting. Don't count on your art, whatever it is, to pay your rent right off the bat. It doesn't work like that. Um, Believe that you are good at what you do. Always keep doing it. Always believe that I'm good at this. Right? Don't let every director, every fellow actor tell you how good you are. Okay, keep trying to do this. Figure out how many different ways you can ply your craft. Right? There are podcasts now. There are people creating their own lives. And that's another thing that I really wish I'd sort of been like just a little bit before all the technology went boom. Podcasts and YouTube and putting your own series on YouTube and getting a couple of friends together and recording stuff on your iPhone, or buying an inexpensive video camera and recording it that way. This is the biggest one. Overnight success is neither. Right? No one is successful overnight. And if you're successful, it took longer than overnight. Right? We look at someone like somebody comes to mind right away, Sarah Cooper. She did all those Trump impersonations and all that stuff. We go, oh my God, where's she been? And then you look at her list of things. She has done shows. She's been a comedian. She's done things on YouTube way before this. She's done videos. She has been working at it for years. This just happened to be the thing at the right time, at the right moment. And she was ready. She was ready when they said, hey, Sarah, come on. She's like, let's go. Right? I have a really good comedian that I work with like twice, but I've watched her since I worked with her. Her name is Dulce Sloan. She's a correspondent on Daily Show. I saw her do.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I saw her do she's done a couple of showcases that I was on. And again, it was one of those, where'd you come from? And then you look back and you go, well, she has been plying this trade forever. This wasn't a surprise. This wasn't an accident, right? I have a buddy from here, Daniel Hill, who's another guy.
Yeah.
Who like, it's just, he is constantly on Facebook. Like, I got this job in this show. I got this job in this movie. And
he's a UofL alum, y'all.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. He got a degree at UofL. He had all of that set up. So then when they said, all right, I need you to be this person, they didn't have to teach him how to act. Okay. Because I see so many comedians who are like, I got 1 million hits on YouTube, and you put them on stage and they got nothing. You got to be ready. You got to have that backup, right? It's like, oh my God, I love that audition. You got to be ready to back it up. So when that director starts using words like Stanislavski and Spolin and Bogart, you have to know what they're talking about. Okay. When they say, when they're talking about Susan Lloyd Parks, and when they're talking about, Dallas House Part 2, or when they're talking about, fences, or when they're referring to some playwright or something, or some methodology, You gotta do your homework. You gotta be ready when they call you.
Yeah, you got to stay research stuff. You got to continue to learn. I think that
Yeah.
would be a note that I would get. Like, you have to continue to learn all the time.
And whatever it is you do it all the time. If you got a bunch of downtime, you know what you should be doing, actors? Reading plays all the time. You should be on. There are so many virtual plays you can see now for free.
Oh my God, yes.
So much great art for free that you can see because they know we broke. We ain't got no money. They're like, you know what, artists, we're going to do this. Somebody will give us some money. So the people who will donate. The grants, for those people will come. You ain't got no money, slide and scale. Give them whatever you do or nothing. If you ain't got nothing, give them nothing. There are seminars. You go to HowlRound, you go to Creative Capital. They're teaching people all the time. This is how you become an artist in this virtual world. Take all these free seminars you can take. There's so much free education out here. When you got downtime, and a lot of us got downtime, use that downtime, okay? Artists is always trying to figure out what's the next thing I'm trying to learn? What's the next project I'm trying to do? Do stuff on your own, right? If you can hear this, that means you probably got a phone. Put something on the phone and put it on TikTok. All of that is free. You can get the premium whatever. I'm not trying to do that because I'm old. Why am I trying to do premium TikTok? But other people, the young people, should do, put your money where your art is. Oh my God, I just made that up. Write that down, Sydney. Tyler,
write that down. Put your money where your art is.
Something for me. That'd be great. Put your money where your art is.
Invest in you.
Amen.
I love it.
Amen.
All right. So I've got a new section of the interview of the podcast today, and I'm going to call it the Quick Five. All right.
Okay.
So literally the first thing that comes to your mind, you don't have to talk too much if you don't want to, but these questions are for you to have some fun. Keith, you ready?
I'm ready.
And I picked these out especially for you because I know your personality a little bit. So I picked these out for you off a huge list. Okay. Question 1. What fashion trend do you just not get?
Oh my goodness. I don't even have time. Fashion trend I don't get, and this is old man talking. Fashion trend I don't get is going outside in freezing weather with short shorts on. I do not. Short shorts and mini skirts and no coat and okay, now you started me. Now the old man's coming out. Wearing pajama pants to the grocery store. Stop it. Stop it. Put on real pants. You outside. You can't just get up off the couch and go to Kroger. Put some pants on.
Oh Lord, I'm with you there. I hate that one too. Tyler, you asked the next one. Can you see it?
Yeah. If you were a superhero, what would your powers be?
If I was a superhero, my powers would be to help you see how valuable you are. My power would be to be able to look at somebody and go, okay, this is what you're meant to do. And you don't even know it, or it's something you already love doing and be like, yeah, you're really meant to be a chef, right? You're really meant to build things. You're really meant to be a mom. That's your calling. You're called to be a mother.
So you want to be a psychic?
Not really a psychic. No, psychic be like, all right, I see in your future that you something, I don't know, it's somebody with a D. You know anybody with a D? No, it would be more like people who are trying to find out who they are. And
yeah.
Like, or somebody's told them, you can't make no money doing that. Or that's stupid. Why would you want to do that? And to be able to look at them and go, look, this is the thing you're meant to do. I can't even tell you how I know it. But somebody might have said this to you before. You're not meant to do it. Maybe you're not even doing it yet. Maybe you haven't found it. But this is what you're meant to do right now. I don't know how I know. That'd be $10.
I think you... $10. $10. I think you do have a little bit of that superpower, though, Keith. I see it. I think you have a little bit of that one, for sure.
With the kids, I feel like I do,
Yeah, with the kids, for sure. All right. Keith, what's the strangest thing you've ever eaten?
What is the strangest... What is the strangest thing I've ever eaten? Pig's feet.
That's the strangest thing you've ever eaten is pig's feet.
Yeah, just all of that. We ain't got no money. Food. Pig's feet.
Yeah,
Vienna sausage, potted meat.
They are strange.
They're strange foods. Like, it's not even like we are trying to create something that is similar to something. Like, look, this is what we had left over after we used all the good parts of the animal and we ground it up and put it in a little can. It's like they're not even reaching for it. It's like, yep, here it is. Or if you want, we can squeeze it into a mold and put it in little weenies. Either one, you decide. You decide.
Yeah, I grew up poor, so all that was not strange to me. It was very commonplace. But like thinking back,
yeah, no, that's weird food. You know what's funny, real quick, is that when I was a kid, we would eat oxtails all the time. I loved oxtails. There's something about the taste of oxtails. It's like really fatty, but it's also sweet and it's really good. And they were like, you get 100 pounds for like 42 cents or something.
Oh, wow.
Now you go to a restaurant, you ask for oxtail soup. It's like, all right, this soup has been prepared by PM, blah, blah, blah. It's like $25. Like, what is this? These are bones that they would get ready to throw in the garbage. Until somebody said, don't throw that away. I need them. I need them bones. I don't get it.
I've never had oxtail. I want to, though, but
really
I've never tried it.
Really good stuff. Buy them yourself, though, and boil them yourself.
Fair.
So, Keith, if there was a movie made about you, who would play you in the movie?
Oh, wow.
And what genre would it be? Because, you got options.
Mine would be not a horror film. Not really a comedy, because that's just too on the nose. I think it would be a drama with some comedic moments, but some really heartfelt stuff. Mm-hmm. Who would play me? Probably, what is his name? Green Mile Guy. No, not Green Mile Guy. Forrest Whitaker would play me.
Forrest Whitaker. I can see that.
Yeah, if I'm casting somebody as me, Forrest Whitaker is the guy. But then I would get Cedric the Entertainer. I would ask for Forrest Whitaker. I would get Cedric the Entertainer try to do his first serious dramatic role, not unlike Puff Combs as in Raisin in the Sun. It would be like
Raisin. That was an atrocity.
It would be like that.
You know what I did watch that situation that actually did work out? I saw Kevin Hart on The Upside just last week. Mm-hmm. And it was actually good. Him in a dramatic role actually worked.
You can't start with a big sweeping. You've got to start with like a small moment and then build on that. Like, get your chops, get your feet under you. Right? That was the problem with stunt casting Sean Puffy Combs in basically the lead role of this play. Because he didn't have the undercurrent. Like, he didn't have time to study what it takes to sustain that guy the whole time. He just thought, I just need to squint a lot and just close my eyes and be mad. I'm mad. It's like, okay, all right, you got to do more than that.
That's hilarious. All right, Keith, this last question is not fair, okay?
All right, I'm ready.
It's just not.
I'm ready.
Keith, what is your favorite joke?
My favorite joke of mine or just a joke?
Just what's your favorite joke? Yeah, it could be yours.
Joke? Oh, so I have a joke. I think I really like. No, this is a joke, and it's sort of hack now, but it wasn't hack when I started doing it. It's about me being. Actually, it's not hack really. It's kind of like what we were talking about. I was supposed to be an engineer. I was supposed to be an engineer, but I wasn't very good at it. I was a C average civil engineer. You cannot be a C average engineer. Nobody wants a bridge that works 70% of the time. Like 10 of y'all gonna go across this bridge and only 3 of you won't make it. Nobody wants that guy to be right. I still got student loan money, still working that out. Right. I'm still paying for spring break 86.
Wow.
At some point, I had a $3,000 pina colada. I don't know when that happened. I don't know when that happened. Try to move and hope they wouldn't find you. You can't outrun a bill. You can try. You can't outrun a bill. Right? Now, you can move, like if you got an LG&E bill that gets too high, you just move and put in somebody else's name. You can do that. You can't do that with student loans. They will find you the next day. It's like dog student loan bounty hunter. Yeah. You know how to find Osama bin Laden? He had a student loan. That's how they found him. So that's my favorite joke of mine. I mean, I know that's vain, but that's top of mind right there. Top of mind is my favorite joke.
Because it's so true.
Because it's so true.
That's hilarious. Yeah. Yes. Man, you can't shake them. You can't.
You
Oh
cannot.
my God. All right.
So
next section.
Yeah, so at the beginning of the interview, we talked a little bit about something that you recently watched, and you said that it was Bridgerton.
Yes.
So what are your thoughts on Bridgerton? You like it? Love it?
Here's the thing. I wasn't sure what Shonda was doing with, like, she had all the races, which is fine, but then there was no comment about them, and I thought, okay, you can't pretend like some of these people are not black. You cannot pretend. But then I found out that she was doing that because she actually did research and found that, for example, Queen Charlotte was black. And so,
shut up.
Yeah. And so for a while, that elevated black people in everybody's eyes. Well, if the king can marry a black person, well, I can certainly be all right with black people with having money, and that's fine. And black people are great until the king dies, and then they're horrible again. So I say, okay, I can see that. And so then she just took that as far as she could take it. It's like everybody can be with everybody, right? It's not about, she took it out of the realm of race and put it in the realm of class, which is where it really was. And because everything was so tenuous, like you could sneeze at the wrong time and suddenly your family has to move out of town. Or it's like, her slip was showing, which means she cannot ever marry, which means she will be poor. And no one in her family can marry. I mean, it was that tenuous. She's like, well, race is not part of it. If you got a lot of money and you're a certain race, you're fine. If you ain't got enough money and your daughter doesn't know how to, play the piano or sing or embroider, then that's what it is.
Tiny things that were important in Bridgerton were so funny to me. But I think the funniest part was just like their inability to talk about sex.
Oh yeah,
like with their children.
That was still there. That was still on top of things. Just like we can't really, we just go in there and cross our fingers that we know what happens. And then once you find out what happens, it's like, really? Okay. But I did like the fact that it wasn't, because we've seen so many portrayals of sex as a duty that women must perform. Or sometimes a duty that men must perform too, so I can have an heir. And to see people, it's like, no, we really enjoy this. And we know how to make the other person feel really nice. It's like, oh, good for you. Understanding that not everybody in that time was like, because I hate this, but we have to do it because it's the
Yeah, no, it was a quick watch too. I got through Bridgerton pretty fast.
It was very fast. It moved very quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was. I like I think everybody's swooning over that main guy. I don't even know his name, but he was really great. I hadn't seen him in anything before, but I thought he was great. All right. So
I hadn't seen any of those people before. Yeah, and then I realized, they're all British. Okay.
That makes sense. I think Shonda produced it. I know she didn't write it. It was based on another story or something.
Yeah, it was based on a romance series, and they're actually, of course, talking about season 2.
Oh, good. Did you call it who the anonymous writer was? I totally called it. I totally knew who it was.
I did very early on.
I haven't seen it yet, so don't.
We're not gonna spoil it for Tyler. We're not gonna spoil it for Tyler.
Well, and then I said, "What? It's him?" No.
Oh my good. All right. So we're going to wrap up with just our two last little questions here, Keith. We're so glad that you joined us. Is there something that we haven't asked you about today that you would like to share that you think is important, or do you have any upcoming projects that you want to speak about?
What am I doing? I really don't have anything. I do have a thing that's happening, and it may end up on the interweb, but I don't know. There's a group in Appalachia, in southeastern Kentucky, Harlan area called Higher Ground, and they've been doing productions down there about Appalachia for 8 years. Okay. And somebody who's working with them interviewed me when I was doing work with Shakespeare behind bars, because she was talking about theater in prison, I think was her, or theater in strange environments or something. I can't remember what her thesis was about, but she remembered me from that and said, would you like to direct this piece? and that we have to write it and we have to cast it. And I was like, yeah, that's great. And so that's the big thing that's coming up. It's very interesting too, because I'm learning what Appalachia is and what it's not through this piece. And so I'm also trying to make sure I'm honoring the people of Appalachia with this piece and not coming in like a city slicker and being like, hey, y'all don't know nothing about nothing. I'm just going to do this. Actually listening to them and sort of working with people. And on top of it, it would have been, I'd be down there all the time, working with all the people. But because COVID, it's a lot of virtual meeting. And so then I'm finding out like, well, in the mountains, I can't get a signal. Or I don't know how to work Zoom because I've never had to.
How far away is it?
Or it's about 3.5 hours. Yeah, so it's a little trek. And so it's interesting figuring out how to make this play from long distance. Like I'm going to start going down there every weekend and then for a couple of weeks during the rehearsal period. But most of it's just been Zoom calls and emailing back and forth and, the whole thing. So this is the world we live in. Is that you have to be able to connect from a distance, which is actually pretty good because I've met some people I never would have met had it not been for Zoom. I would never know who you are.
Yeah, and that could be pretty cool too. All right, Keith, is there a place where our listeners can connect with you online? Do you have the social medias?
I do. I have Keith McGill Comic on Facebook, Keith McGill Comic on Instagram. I think it's Keith McGill 1 on Twitter. And there are 2 Keith McGills. Like if you just Google Keith McGill, 2 of us will come up. One guy is a football player who's about 20 years younger than me and had a pretty rocky career and then some felonies.
Ooh.
And then there's me. Yeah. So if you put in Keith McGill comedian, I'll come up. If you put Keith McGill, he'll come up and then they'll tell you how he fell afoul of the law.
I think everybody's got a story like that. Somebody's got their name and did something trashy with it. It's so sad.
Right. Right. I think actually there's one IMDb entry on a movie I did a million years ago that his picture is in there because they just grabbed Keith McGill and threw it in there. And I'm like, that's not me.
It's not you.
So I've got to fix that. Y'all reminded me. Got to fix
Go fix it. IMDb can be tricky, so good luck.
Yeah, that's why I'm never in there because it's like I just want my picture in the. All right.
Oh Lord. Anyway, Keith, thank you so much for coming through today. We really, really enjoyed you.
This was great. I love this. I always like talking about myself. Are you kidding me? Shoot.
This has been the African American Theater Program's podcast, The Beat. Thank you for listening.